Hello, and welcome to hashtag Stronger with Memorial, an online chat where specialists throughout Memorial Healthcare System will bring you helpful tips to stay healthy and safe while home during the COVID-19 pandemic. So today, I'm excited to talk to Dr. Michael Dressing. He's a pediatric sports medicine physician with Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital about how student athletes can avoid deconditioning while sheltering in place. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Dressing. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's jump right in. Are there some specific tips that young athletes or student athletes need to keep in mind while they're training at home in order to stay injury-free?
Absolutely. As many people have seen, there are tons of different workouts that everyone's advertising on social media and online that you can do at home, which is great. But I think it's important for athletes to try and not do anything outside their comfort zone. Exercises that you haven't done before, this may not be a great time to try those on your own at home if you have nobody around to spot you or to make sure that you're doing them correctly. So I think that there's a couple of things that I would say that are good tips to keep in mind for that. And one of them is make sure you change up your exercise routine because we don't want to cause an overuse injury because you do the same thing every day. Another thing that if you can do is working out with a partner. And I think that, whether it's someone in your home or whether you do work out on a video, and if you're working out with someone at home, it may be a good way to involve the family.
So do studies show the impact not training can have on student athletes in terms of their performance and physical conditioning?
Yeah, they definitely do. And let me start with the good news first. It actually is a good thing for athletes to take a break from their sport. And we often see people playing one sport completely year round, and it's actually a good thing to have a couple months off from that sport to give your body a rest. Now, the bad news is absolutely a period of time without activity can have some negative effects on the body. Now, we define deconditioning as the loss of anatomical, physiological, and performance adaptations that we get from an extended break from activity. And some of these adaptations that athletes just normally have are an increased blood volume, a lower resting heart rate. They have a better ability to transport oxygen to their tissues. They have better heart output and better pulmonary function as well. Now, some of these adaptations can actually start to be reversed within as little as 2 days of no activity. And we also see some metabolic changes that occur in the body, and those are important to think of as well. The body, which usually relies a lot on fats and carbohydrates to process energy, is actually relying less on fats and more on carbohydrates during this time. And we also see a lot of these athletes are taking in large volumes of protein, which they need for muscle recovery. And, obviously, if you're stopping your activities, you don't need as much as you did previously. So there are definitely important things to keep in mind with your nutrition.
Last question. What are some things our athletes, our coaches, and athletic trainers need to keep in mind when organized practice, workouts, and games resume, whenever that is?
So with fitness, it's important to realize the body is returning to activity, but it may not be returning in the exact form that you left it in when the sport that you stopped ended. And so I think that it's important to realize that when we're starting activities again, a lot of these athletes may have played spring sports or club sports that have been going on year round, and they may not usually have a break between sports. And this time they're going to. So I think that's a very important thing to consider. One of the important things to do is focus a lot on the core and your balance. And those are actually parts of your body and parts to strengthen in your body that are important for almost every sport. And so starting with good fundamentals there is definitely a great and safe place to begin. Next, a lot of people would recommend starting to work on your cardiovascular fitness. And instead of hitting the high weights and the big aerobic workouts, a lot of the important things to do at this point would be to do some of those low intensity, high repetition activities to kind of get the body's heart rate working, like it used to, and get the body kind of back into a good cardiovascular shape. Now, it's important to remember also that we don't want to increase the body's activities by any more than about 10% per day. And so that's generally a good rule of thumb to think of when you're increasing, whether it's your cardiovascular fitness or the amount of weight that you're lifting. It's important not to increase the amount that you're doing by more than 10% a day, and that can help to prevent injuries from occurring.
Thank you so much for this. I think this has been really, really good practical advice, and I'm sure our listeners will be very, very appreciative. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Stay safe.
You too.